Mr. Nick Carraway.
Slower. Better.
Deeper! Have a safe word.
Way to make up. For next time, a safe word. Wallet.
Nick Carraway. He reached down and pulled out the enigmatic wonder of his smooth and clean-shaved testicles. Each one resembling a darkened poached egg from which a lingering smell of pickles, growing sweat, and cheese wafted up, causing me to salivate and moan. I did not mean to moan. But for all my ability to remain aloof, I cannot contain myself. My eyes roll back and I faint. When I regain my senses, I am unable to move beneath my dear Gatsby's surprisingly profuse gut, so well hidden behind his usual fine jacket and vest. Gatsby is, in fact, flabby. But regardless, the world ends briefly in this moment. I, smothered by a wealthy millionaire, he collapsed upon a bisexual, incest-loving, sardonic bondsman. And after a few seconds of rapid blinking, Gatsby's face hovers over me. His lips tremble as he places his soft fingers to my hair, my neck, trails his fingers down to my ass, and he calls my name with the urgency of someone calling another off a balcony, off a ledge, off a bridge. Nick, oh, Nick, I'm bad. I've been such a bad little boy. I was not ashamed of his sex talk until a small dog came close to the door, peering through the glass into the sitting room, and sat, watching diligently as I and the Great Gatsby fucked as only gentlemen can. On the ground, slacks and boxers loosed around the ankles, sock garters high on the calves, and hair pomade from our heads generously gathered around my buttocks. The dog, unblinking and unforgiving, seemed to say, "Nick, old chap, what's happening?" I had no reply. I moved my arms about as if shooing away a fly, but the dog sat unflinching. It seemed determined to stare, to be a voyeur. Eye locked, we remained still until it begins to yelp, as only small dogs can, high-pitched and relentless. It even began licking itself, barking, and then licking, and then more avidly bites into its little groin as Gatsby increases his pace behind me. No matter how hard or fast, I could not focus on Gatsby in the least. And we stop and resume outside into the ambiguity of the night. And we do. At the beach, he reaches down and pulls out once again his smooth balls. And I am both hungry and aroused, and again could not contain myself, and came prematurely in my pants. And again my eyes roll back, and again I faint. And after a few seconds I'm awake. Gatsby stands upright and flicks the sand lodged between his balls and his anus, and slaps my bare back as if congratulating me on a good game of tennis. Good try, old sport. With almost all his clothes on, he offers his bejeweled hand to help me up. His every nail is manicure and smooth, his palms lotioned so softly. I instantly imagine the supple but firm penis that would be gloved by such a velvety grip, and accepted the gesture. We were, after all, more than men. But the quiet roar of the ocean, great whales dancing, the sexing of water into the dark night, the sound of buttocks and balls slapping like the crashing shore around us, the thrashing and undulating slipperiness of thousands of phallic sea anemone reaching towards the surface of the sky. This was love, and I wanted more, and could not stop touching myself. We try again, and this time I can feel Gatsby's testicles. Their light knocking against the inner thigh tickles as it taps incessantly, like impatient fingers. I could not tell the difference between him and Daisy for a brief moment, and almost call out her name. Gatsby's staccato engulfment of my anus and Daisy's strap-on dildo were one. If not for Gatsby's dainty balls beating lightly upon my skin. Gatsby's hips and hands were so like Daisy's, so familiar. I could almost picture it now, one summer vacation home from Yale, visiting Daisy in the garden. She had asked if I still remembered her, and I did. She placed her hand over my eyes, that delightful girl. And before I could ask further, she undid my belt and yanked my pants down with her other hand, and to my great surprise, managed to insert her new dildo with a swift and hard push, and giggled. But more so, I remember her delicate thin hands around her new toy. Her hands were so smooth, so refined, like Gatsby's hands were now, placed in mind, and the garden suddenly merges into the beachside. The past and the present and time became singular. I could not tell you what happened next, other than I involuntarily whispered Daisy's name aloud into Gatsby's ear. And abruptly, Gatsby's body stiffened, and he coils away from me. I put on my clothes, find myself suddenly cold and more flaccid than I had ever been. Gatsby returns to the glow of his party, his outline growing smaller, sinks into the brightness. I follow him as one follows a broken heart, regrettably. And tragedy, my silk boxers are ruined, and I'm no longer hungry. And with each step towards the spectacle of affluence and glittering excess of millionaires, I become more consumed by thoughts of how I could apologize, undo the damage. I could send him hair pomade, and attach a love note that reads, "This is as much for you as it is for me." I continue to fantasize chance encounters near the bathroom, among his hand towels and miniature soaps and gilded faucets, grinding along on his tailored suits and shimmering ascots. Or in the pool, yes, the pool, which was so like the ocean, and maybe I could swim naked in elaborate backstroke with my penis floating left, right, waving to him. I continue thinking of the pool and how the dramatics of the world required much maintenance, much plotting, and I was no exception. At some point, Jordan finds me engulfed in the view of the ocean from the balcony. She smiles as she hands me a flute of champagne and asks, "Finally having a gay time, are we?" And I was. Certainly. With thoughts of Gatsby, I felt every pubic hair stand straight up, heightened by the mere mention of his name. Indeed, I say, the future seemed orgasmic and stretched out like refractions of light from a place that could never be touched or held. And immediately, I asked for more champagne, endless champagne.